Okay. Chapter 14 was my favorite chapter of the whole book so far. Because of that little bit at the end where he's like, Lewis is bringing into question Mitch's Catholicness. Is that a word? No, it's not a word. But yes, I don't like it when people are selective with the Bible. I also I wouldn't take there's things about it because inevitably men lie, and whether you believe the word of God is from God or not, man wrote it. Man changed it. It's been translated many times. It can be misconstrued. So I just really appreciated that part of the chapter. Also, the differentiation between revenge and retribution, that's really good. And then the confirmation that Rap's girlfriend has died in the Pan Am flight, Pan Am 103, is nice to know too. I kind of already guessed it though, like immediately, but yeah. I had a thought though, what if obviously Rap's gonna have to end up killing people. It's obvious. Now who he's gonna end up killing? That's a not so obvious thing. My mind immediately went to Syed, which nobody will be upset about him being dead. I kind of want Rap to go toe to toe with him. That'd be awesome. Just a fair fight, not Rap tied to a chair being tortured. No. I want a fair fight between him and Syed. That'd be cool. Anyway, I'm gonna get into this chapter. If there's enough. If there's, oh yeah, we'll be able to do 2 chapters. 15 and 16. Because 16 is like 3 pages. Okay, here we go. Chapter 15. When the sun rose for the 5th day, they were 1 man short. It was Dick. Rap didn't know the guy's real name, much less where he was from, or where he was going. So it was hard to feel too bad when the guy stepped out of formation during a grueling set of up-downs in the hot afternoon sun. He simply approached one of the instructors, announced his intentions, and the 2 men shook hands. Just like that, the guy was done. Oh, he quit. Free of the pain, the sweating, the burning muscles, the tired eyes, the battered ego, it all seemed too easy, and that's what scared the crap out of Rap. It made him briefly wonder if he was capable of pussing out. All it would take was a down moment, a bad spell, a cold, or a fever, or another sleepless night. One misstep, and he would be the one shaking his hands and packing his bag. While falling asleep that night, Rap focused on the positive. There was 1 man fewer to compete with. They kept saying it wasn't a competition, but Rap wasn't so sure. If it wasn't a competition, why did they count or clock everything they did? The image of the fellow recruit bowing out after 5 days put Rap on guard against a moment of personal weakness. It refocused him by showing just how rapidly this journey could come to a very unsatisfying end. Rap awoke tired, but ready to push ahead. He was the first one out on the line. And was stretching his neck and shoulders, waiting for the others, when he noticed the 2 instructors having what looked like an unpleasant conversation. When everyone was finally on the line, Sergeant Jones stepped forward, and with a disappointed look on his face, said, "One of you screwed up real bad last night." Rap began racking his brain, trying to think of any mistakes he'd made. I don't think it was Rap. I think it was Victor. We have rules for a reason. At this point, you don't need to understand these rules. You just need to follow them. He paused to look at each of them in the eye. You have all been repeatedly warned to not divulge any personal information. Now, we are realizing enough to understand that you boys will discover certain things about each other. Some of you might have a slight accent, so it's pretty easy to figure out what part of the country you come from. As far as prior military experience, we haven't busted your balls over debating the healthy rivalry between the services, but last night, someone crossed the line. Was it Rap? He stopped and looked at the ground. In a disappointed voice, he said, "The one thing you are never supposed to do is tell someone your real name." Rap heard someone farther down the line mumble something under his breath, but he couldn't tell who it was, and considering the mood of the two instructors, he didn't dare look. You are smart enough to know this, and you were all warned what would happen if you slipped up on this one. This isn't a frickin' summer camp. This is serious shit. Sergeant Jones said in a disappointed voice. He looked to the far end of the line and said, "Bill, pack your shit, you're gone." Bill. The man they called Bill, whom Rapp had pegged as the hot-shooting Navy SEAL from Texas, took one step forward and shook his head at the harsh punishment he'd just received. He looked as if he was going to say something and then caught himself. Sergeant Jones started moving and told Bill to follow him back to the barn. Sergeant Smith stepped in to lead them in PT. But before he could start, Bill turned back to the group. "Victor, you're a real asshole. I told you I didn't want to talk, but you just wouldn't leave it alone." Looking at Sergeant Jones, he asked, "Why isn't he getting the boot as well?" "Victor! Keep moving, we'll talk about it in the barn." Because they're testing to see if they'll give out information under, these kind of circumstances. Imagine sending that guy in to a job, to do a secret job undercover, and then he gets captured. He's going to give everything away. That's why they're sending him out. That's why they're sending him home. Am I right? I'm right. "Keep moving, we'll talk about it in the barn." "This is bullshit. He told me who he was and where he was from. Same as me," Bill complained. Victor laughed. "I gave you a fake name, you stupid hick." Why the hell would you do that?" One of the guys farther down the line asked Victor. "Asshole," someone else grumbled. "You guys should be all thanking me," Victor said in an easy voice. "One less guy to worry about." I still don't like Victor, though. Sergeant Smith silenced all of them with the growling order to assume the position. "The next one of you who opens his pie hole again is gone. Now push him out." I just had a random thought. I'm sorry. Is Victor the one recruit that is in on the oh my gosh, what's it called? The selection process. Like, he's in on it. Like, he's undercover himself and trying to push the boys to give up their real names, like, break that rule. Are they trying to do that? Is he trying to do that? Because I'm getting that vibe. Also, what are these things right here on my eyes? I don't understand. Sorry. Rapp dropped his chest down to the dewy grass and pushed straight up, quietly counting out each push-up as he went. He'd done so many in the past 5 days that they were becoming second nature, almost like breathing. Somewhere past number 40 and before number 50, Rapp began feeling some serious ill will toward Victor. If only the big jackass would stumble and break an ankle. He was too risky to have around. For the rest of the morning, as they ran from one thing to the next, Rapp couldn't shake the feeling that he and Victor were on a collision course. With Dick quitting and Bill getting the boot, that meant too fewer people to run interference. Victor would focus more of his time on pestering Rapp. The long run was actually nice, since Victor was the slowest of the group. They were spared his running mouth. When breakfast rolled around, they all gave him the cold shoulder. It didn't matter to Victor, though. He stayed chatty, continued to dole out insults, and the occasional wise-ass comment that the instructors seemed to take better than they should have. They spent an hour on the obstacle course and another hour on the pistol range before heading back in for lunch. The attitude among the recruits was decidedly sour. It was as if they had a traitor in their midst. That's exactly what it is like. After lunch, they went over field stripping various handguns. And then it was announced that they were heading into the barn for a little hand-to-hand combat. Kick their ass, Mitch! Pit Mitch against Victor, please! Pit Mitch against Victor. Oh my god, please. For Rapp, it was his first time back on the mat since the day he had arrived. He had wondered where the mean old cuss had gone, and had almost asked Sergeant Smith, but the guy wasn't exactly keen on sharing information. Jones and Smith paired the men up. Since there were 5, someone had to be the odd man out, and it turned out to be Rapp. The rules were simple: no blows to the head or groin. Chokeholds were encouraged, but they warned the men to be careful not to crush anyone's larynx. If you wanted out, all you had to do was tap the mat. Right before they started, the blonde-haired shrink quietly slipped into the barn. The first 2 men up were Roy and Glenn. Rapp hadn't figured out where either of them was from, and wasn't about to ask. Like all of them, the 2 men were dark-featured, with black hair, brown eyes, and tan skin. Roy was 5'10", and Glenn was perhaps an inch taller. Rapp guessed they were both around 27. He was not overly impressed with their fighting styles. They both used standard judo techniques, lots of holds and throws, but nothing that could be used to incapacitate an enemy in one quick flurry. Technically, they were sound, and they were both tough enough and in good enough shape to draw out a lengthy, tiring, boring match. After about 4 minutes, they ended up in a sweaty tangle in the middle of the mat, and Sergeant Smith stepped in. Victor and Fred were up next. Damn it! Fred was 6 feet tall and about 175 pounds, and had done a really good job of keeping to himself. He finished in the top 3 on every run, handled the obstacle course with ease, and was the top marksman after Bill. Victor, at 6'2" and 220 pounds, was by far the biggest of the group. His neck was nearly as thick as his thighs, which meant, as Rapp had noticed when he met him, that he would be really hard to knock out with a shot to the head. From all the talking he'd done, Rapp half expected to see the second coming of Muhammad Ali. Victor bounded across the mat, shadow boxing as he went. "You ready to get your ass kicked, Freddy?" Fred said nothing. He walked to the center of the mat in his bare feet and took up his fighting stance. Rapp pegged him for a wrestler by the way he moved. Victor was such an oversized peacock that it was impossible to tell what he was capable of. Most guys his size were not boxers, but he did move pretty well on his feet. Sergeant Smith dropped his hand, and the 2 men charged at each other. Fred went low, just as Rapp expected him to. Victor tried to sidestep him, but his right leg got looped by his opponent. Fred hooked onto Victor's knee and pulled it tight to his chest. He stayed low and kept driving with his legs, trying to tip the bigger man over. Victor hopped back on his left leg and started delivering punches to Fred's back. The first were misplaced and lacked power. Rapp watched Victor lose his balance and begin to go down. He changed his tactic and smacked Fred in the back of the head with a closed fist punch. Fred appeared to slow for a split second, but he didn't lose his grip. Victor went down and rolled immediately onto his stomach. He flared his arms and legs out so he couldn't be flipped. Fred scrambled over the top of him and shot his right arm under Victor's neck. He wrenched the bigger man's head back and placed his left forearm across the back of Victor's head. The hold was commonly known as the sleeper hold, and if it wasn't broken in short order, it performed as advertised. Victor got hold of a couple of Fred's fingers and twisted with everything he had while turning into the man. Victor used his strength to reverse out of it. At first it looked as if he was getting the upper hand, and then Rapp saw what Fred was up to. He had allowed Victor to think he was initiating the move, but in truth it was Fred's idea. Once on his back, Fred wrapped his legs around Victor's waist and clapped down with a vicious scissor lock. Victor only made things worse by trying to pull himself up and away. As Rapp had learned the hard way, the best way to get out of that hold was with a well-placed elbow to the inner thigh. Earlier in the summer, his instructor had put him in the same scissor lock and made him pay dearly. By pulling away, you stretched out the torso, which allowed the person initiating the hold to clamp down even tighter. Then you emptied your lungs to take in a big breath, and the person squeezed even tighter. The next thing you knew, you were desperately in need of oxygen, writhing in pain, and genuinely concerned that you were about to end up with a broken rib or two. Victor made that mistake, and it was obvious by the worried look in his eyes that he knew he was in trouble. He swung hard, trying to hit Fred in the solar plexus, but the blow was blocked. Next, he tried to twist away, which only allowed Fred to tighten his hold a few more notches. Victor's face was beet red. Rapp knew it would last only a few more seconds, and he was silently hoping to hear a few ribs pop between now and then. It looked as if Victor was going to quit. He started to wave his left hand, and then just as Fred relaxed a touch, Victor brought his big right fist smashing down. The blow hit Fred square in the face, his head bouncing off the mat, and he released his legs. Then blood began to pour from his misshapen nose. Rapp took a step forward, ready to kick Victor in the head. He was on the verge of delivering the blow when Sergeant Smith stepped onto the mat and began barking orders. Rapp took a step back and watched as Victor rolled off Fred, flopped onto his back, and began to laugh. I think that is considered cheating just a tiny bit. Just a little bit. Okay. Fred won that. Fred won, and you can't tell me otherwise. That's all I'm going to say about that chapter. I want to see Mitch fight. Let Mitch fight. Let Mitch fight. Okay. Sergeant Jones was attending to Fred's broken nose. Sorry, chapter 16. Roy and Glenn were talking quietly and shooting Victor daggers. Rapp looked to the door and noticed the shrink studying him. Twice now, Rapp had seen the rules of engagement broken, and so far, there had been no punishment handed out. Not that the old codger should be punished, but Victor was one of them, and if he could get away with it, then Rapp could as well. I won't be so sure. I think they're going to be harder on you, Rapp. I was going to call him Matt. His name's not Matt. Oh my god. Okay, I have to get through this because it got Rapp thinking that maybe it was It got Rapp thinking that maybe it was time to bend the rules a little bit. While he was working out the details of what he wanted to do, Sergeant Smith ordered him onto the mat and pointed at Glenn. I would rather fight Victor. Yes, you would, Rapp said. Well, you're not running the show around here, Smith snapped. He's doing you a favor, Victor said, still out of breath. A little pussy like you wouldn't last 5 seconds against me. If I don't see Mitch and Victor fight, I swear to God. Rapp stayed calm, but there was something unmistakably ominous just beneath the surface. Let's find out, he said evenly. Suicide. Victor retorted. I think you're afraid. Shut up, all of you, Sergeant Smith said. Glenn, get your ass on the mat. Rap moved to his left, cutting off Glenn. He stayed facing the wiry instructor and said, I'm confused. Do rules matter around here, or does Victor get to do as he pleases? We have rules, damn it. Now get in the middle of the mat and shut up. Oh no, Mitch, what are you doing? No disrespect, Sarge, but this is bullshit. How are we supposed to trust each other? How are we supposed to trust you when he keeps doing whatever the hell he wants without getting punished? You think there's any rules out there? Victor laughed. In the real world? Hell no. But in here, we should just let you do whatever you want? Sarge, Victor said as he got to his feet, I got this one, don't worry. I can take care of this little college puke with one arm tied behind my back. I'll take you up on that offer. Tie his arm behind his back. Sergeant Smith looked as if he was about to lose it, but the blonde-haired shrink stepped in and said, Sergeant, I think we should allow Victor and Irving to have a go at it. Yes! Do it! Is this why this chapter's so short? Because Mitch is just like, bam, done? The sergeant's head snapped around. Rapp noticed a brief exchange of thoughts between the men before the sergeant retreated. All right, he grumbled. Both of you, center of the mat, square off, and on my mark you start. Do we bother with the rules this time, or should I assume Victor will break them? Rapp asked, stone-faced. The head and neck are off limits, damn it. I appreciate the effort, Sarge, but I'd prefer no restrictions. Oh my god. I don't care what you prefer, I make the rules. Rapp hesitated. He wanted clarification on this point, and he'd rather not have to worry about Victor cheating, and if Victor accidentally punches me in the face. God damn it, the sergeant boomed. This isn't a debate club. Do you ladies want to go for a nice long run? Accidentally punches him in the face. Rapp silently moved to the center of the mat, satisfied that he had made his point, but nonetheless wary that Victor would do whatever it took to win. A strategy was already forming in his head. Victor had shown that he was a fairly one-dimensional fighter. Against the uninitiated, he could probably hold his own on the mat, but boxing was his preference. That was plain enough to see. Victor was all smiles as he slapped one fist into the fleshy palm of the other. I'm gonna kick your ass, you little puke. Rapp brought his fists up close to his face like a boxer, elbows in tight. And if you can't, Victor? Oh, there's no doubt you're going down. Rapp drew him in. He feigned that he was out of position and allowed Victor to initiate the first salvo. Two slow left jabs were launched straight for Rapp's face. Rapp blocked them with his right hand, then ducked under a big hook that would have knocked him off his feet if it had connected. Rapp noted that 3 punches had been thrown by Victor, and all 3 had been diverted at his supposedly off-limits head. And more important, Sergeant Smith didn't seem to care that Victor was breaking the rules yet again. That would make things easier for Rapp. He changed directions and bobbed back to his left as Victor threw 2 hard right jabs. The first one Rapp dodged, and the second one hit him in the left shoulder. The blow was solid, but Rapp played it up, intentionally stumbling to his right, as if he were in trouble. Victor took the bait and charged in, his left hand trying to push Rapp's hands out of the way so he could deliver a knockout blow with his right. As Victor brought his fist up by his right ear, Rapp sprang forward with such quickness that he caught Victor completely off guard. He grabbed the bigger man's left wrist with his right hand and threw up his left arm to block the coming punch. Rapp launched himself at Victor, his head arching back and then whipping forward. His hard forehead slammed into the soft cartilage of Victor's nose, making a sickening crushing sound. Before Victor could counter, Rapp wrapped his hands around the back of the big man's neck, pulling him down and in. Rapp delivered 2 harsh knee strikes to the man's sternum before releasing him. Victor staggered back, blood pouring from his nose, gasping for air. "Sorry about that, Victor," Rapp said, egging him on. "Didn't mean to break your nose." I love this. "I'm going to freaking kill you," Victor screamed. Rapp simply motioned for Victor to bring it on. The big man charged. Rapp expected the bull rush. He feinted to his right and then back to his left, and as Victor lumbered by, he hit him with a punch to the kidney, which stood him up. Victor pivoted to meet the next blow, and rather than gain distance, Rapp engaged, moving in and wrapping his left hand around the back of Victor's neck and the right hand around Victor's biceps. Victor reared his head back and was prepared to deliver a headbutt of his own, but before he could strike, Rapp did something that none of them expected. He jumped up in the air, swung his left leg under Victor's armpit, and then his right leg around Victor's neck as he allowed himself to fall to the mat. Rapp was now upside down, hanging on to Victor's left arm and pulling him down on top of him. Rapp raised his hips, and the pressure toppled Victor to the mat. Rapp had him in a version of the same arm bar that he had put the mean old cuss in on the first day, except that Rapp wasn't looking for submission this time. Rapp grabbed Victor's wrist with both hands. He twisted and pulled the arm until the elbow socket was on top of his right hip bone. Ow. And then he raised his hips while pulling down as hard as he could with his hands. Rapp did not stop, even when Victor started to scream. The entire thing took just under 2 seconds. There was a loud pop, and then Rapp released the arm, which was now bent at a very unnatural angle. Rapp got to his feet and looked down at Victor. The man was moaning, his entire body rigid with pain. Rapp didn't smile or gloat. There was a touch of guilt over what he'd just done, but Victor was a bully and a jerk. Fred was sitting at the edge of the mat with cotton shoved up his nostrils and an ice pack on his nose. Fred nodded to Rapp and flashed him the thumbs up. Roy and Glenn wandered over, each man quietly congratulating him for solving their problem. Sergeant Smith was too busy attending to Victor, who was flopping around writhing in pain. Rapp had no idea whether he was in trouble. He looked over at the shrink who was watching him intently. The man's lips were pursed in thought, as if he appeared to have drawn some conclusion about Rapp. The only problem was, Rapp couldn't tell if it was admiration or disappointment. Yes! Beat his ass! He deserved it. Okay, he deserved it. Number 1. Number 2. They need to uphold the rules of the fighting better, because but you know, if that's the end of, if like Victor is kicked out and sent home, if that's like we never see him again in the book, I'm fine with that. Also, poor Fred, man. Also, I think Lewis is like, he's got the stuff. It's just, he might be a little bit too ruthless. You know what I mean? Because Rapp wasn't giving revenge just then. He was giving retribution. That's what he was doing, I think. Anyway, that's how I see it. But I'm gonna end this now, and then I'm gonna read more, because I love this book a lot. Chapter 14 and chapter 16, golden chapters. So yeah, I'm gonna end it and see you guys in the next one.